Namaste. When last we spoke, I shared with you one of the sutras from the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. I'm going to talk about another set of sutras now, the Bhakti Sutras of Narada. And those are sutras on the practice of devotion or the practice of bhakti. And in those sutras, early on, there's a sutra that says, spiritual devotion does not come from desire, but it comes from a place of inner stillness. Spiritual devotion, or devoted to spirit, giving oneself completely to spirit. So what is spirit? If we think of spirit as the spark or the indweller, then that's part of all of us. That indwelling spark, the beginning of all things, is something that is part of each being, no matter what path they're on or what practice they engage in. But that spark, that spirit, is the animating force of life. It is the unchanging force behind all of us. And then to be devoted to that, that's the goal. To make a personal connection to that, to find a personal relationship to that. If that's the goal, spiritual devotion, this sutra says we can't get there by simply desiring, simply wanting it. But instead, we have to remember that that space of spirit, that spark that is spirit, is still and unchanging. The indweller is the thing that is constant, not in flux. So we have to remember that and then witness that within ourselves, know that that stillness is within us. And then in witnessing that, begin to inhabit that. And through inhabiting that, we become stillness. We become that indweller. We reunite with spirit within. So what we seek cannot be achieved through the desires of the mind, but we have to pause, witness, and reconnect with the truth within in order to get to the thing that we seek. It's another way of saying that the thing that we seek is already within us. So take a beat and pause and move to that space where you can experience that truth. And there's a hint of time in there, right? When we desire, we want time to accelerate. I want, give it to me faster. The sutra tells us that we have to get to a place of stillness, but the subtext in there is that might take a little bit of time. If we want to be connected to spirit, if we want to reconnect to spark, then we might have to put in some time in order to get to that place. And we don't know how much time that's going to take. Might that take a week or a month or a year or several years or several lives? We don't know. And we have to be okay with the not knowing and simply engage with the practice of moving toward stillness. And then when we get to that place, then we have spiritual devotion. Then we can be in the state of being that we can call love. That's a lot in this one small thread, in this one small sutra. But that's the moving away from the mind to get to the truth, the higher intelligence of the heart. There's a story that in the translation of the sutras that I use from Prem Prakash that he uses to explain this. And it's about a day when Shiva and Parvati, his beloved, decide to go and walk amongst their devotees, to see them, to give them darshan, to see them and be seen by them. And as Shiva does this, he walks amongst great devotees and they come and they praise. And then they ask, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Are these the right practices? And if they are, how long before enlightenment? Please tell me. Please tell me if I'm doing this right. Please tell me I'm doing it right. So when Shiva speaks to them and listens, he then honestly answers, yes, you are doing what you need to be doing. And as long as you keep doing it, he says to one devotee, it will take you 10 to 20 more lifetimes before you get there. Ugh, dejected. He goes to another one. Same conversation, different practices, same conversation. Am I doing this right? Please tell me I'm doing it right. How long before I'm enlightened? How long before I achieve the goal? Well, Shiva says, this could take you maybe 100 lives. Dejected. On to the next. And this conversation continues this way. He meets, they ask, he tells. Finally, he comes to an old man. And the old man says, oh, Lord Shiva, blessings. Thank you for seeing me. And he says, I'm too old. I'm too weak to practice anymore. But I try to be of service. I try to be a good person. I try to help those in need. And Shiva says, And he thinks. And as he's calculating the number of births that it will take this old man to reach enlightenment is a number that is so large it cannot really be fathomed. And the old man says, do you think I will achieve enlightenment one day? And Shiva says, yeah, one day. One day. He doesn't tell him the number. He just says, one day. And the old man stands up and he dances and he turns around and he gets so excited. I can be enlightened. I can be one with the Lord. I can be one with the divine. It's possible. And in that moment, the man, in his dance and his swirl, he turns into a great flame. And in this swirling and flaming, the flame lifts and it moves over to Shiva and it goes right into Shiva and is absorbed into him. Right there on the spot, this old man has become one with God. And Parvati looks at Lord Shiva and says, what did you do? It was going to take forever for this old man to get to this point of unity and oneness. What did you do to help him? And Shiva said, I did nothing. It was his believing that enlightenment was possible. Or we could say, we could translate that as, it was his absence of desire, his absence of wanting so badly for something to happen, but knowing in his heart, in his soul, that it's possible for that to be there, allowed him to see the stillness within, allowed him to come into contact with that spark of truth that's already there. And in witnessing it in that moment, that's all it took. And he is awake. He is enlightened. He has achieved spiritual devotion. He has come into contact with the spirit within. And that's what we seek to do, is to move away from desire, to move away from the pull of the mind, the wanting, and to move toward the being. And then when we move toward the being, we become love. We become the thing that we seek. We purify ourselves through moving into that space. The space of the throat is a space of purification, the Vishuddha chakra. And this is a space that we associate with Shiva. And Shiva is sometimes called, as a result of the relationship to this space, the blue-throated god, And that's another story for another day. But he's called the blue-throated god. So the space of the throat, the space of the back of the throat in particular, is where the mudra that I'd like you to practice happens. And it's called Shari Mudra. And it's done by taking the tip of your tongue and curling it up so that the very tip touches the soft palate at the back of your mouth. And when you do that, you apply a little bit of pressure. And the thing you have to watch out for is tension in your jaw, not clenching your jaw to do it. But when you curl your tongue this way, it allows the soft palate to secrete a little bit more fluid. So you might feel a little bit more spittle a little in the back of your throat. And when we feel that, it is said to be like the nectar of the moon falling into the throat, the nectar of immortality, because the spirit is immortal. The spirit is without birth or death. It simply is. It's not going through those changes. So when we take this mudra, it awakens that space of bringing the amrit, or the nectar of immortality, into the throat, bringing that immortal quality to our bodies, our physical bodies here. And in doing that, we get closer to the space of Shiva, the transformer of that which is in flux, that which is changing, bringing it back to that which is changeless, moving from something that is going to die, that is mortal, to something that is immortal. So take the tip of your tongue and curl it back into your mouth and hold it there. And I'm going to share a mantra with you. Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya. Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya. Hara Om Namah, Hara Om Namah Shiva, Hara Om Namah, Hara Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah, Hara Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah, Hara Om Namah Shiva. Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya, Om Namaḥ Śivāya. Go ahead and release your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Namaḥ Śivāya, or salutations to the indweller in the form of Shiva, the great transformer, the great ender of death and the bringer of immortality. this dancer of destruction who brings life. Bring your hands together. Move away from the desire of the mind. And remember that it may take a while to get to that place of witnessing truth within. But if you remember that it's possible, it's there waiting for you.